0420 hours, April 18th, 2025. Norwegian Sea. The icy waters were calm, too calm. Beneath the surface, something moved, silent, patient, and deadly. At 4:21 hours, sonar operators aboard the USS Gerald R. Ford detected a faint anomaly. It wasn't whale song, it was mechanical, rhythmic, intentional. The contact appeared 142 nautical miles northwest of Tromsø, inside the patrol zone of Carrier Strike Group 12. Within seconds, the radar operator's calm voice echoed through the Combat Information Center. Possible submerged contact, bearing 117, range decreasing. In the Black Ocean below, 2 Russian submarines, a Yasin-class attack sub and an improved Kilo class, were closing in. Their mission: ambush the U.S. carrier group during routine NATO drills. What Moscow didn't expect was that the Americans were already listening. For days, U.S. Navy P-8A Poseidon patrol aircraft had been tracking unusual acoustic signatures south of Svalbard. The data matched Russian Yasin-class propulsion patterns, ultra-quiet, nuclear-powered hunters built for one purpose: kill carriers. Each carried Kaliber cruise missiles, torpedoes, and hypersonic Zircon prototypes, still under experimental testing. At 0428 hours, USS Thomas Hudner, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer escorting the carrier, activated low-frequency active sonar (LFAS) mode. A pulse rolled through the sea, a low-pitched hum that could be felt more than heard. The return signal painted something massive, 100 meters long, moving at 15 knots, just 370 feet below. The Yasen had found its prey, but so had the Americans. Inside the Russian submarine Kazan, the captain watched his sonar display with surgical focus. The order from the Northern Fleet Command was simple: simulate a kill. Get within 20 kilometers of the U.S. carrier, lock fire control, and retreat undetected. A message to NATO: the Arctic belongs to Moscow. But as the Russian crew adjusted depth, something unexpected happened. Their passive sonar was suddenly flooded with electronic noise. The Americans had activated counterjamming. What the Russians didn't realize, their every maneuver was being watched by a Virginia-class U.S. submarine shadowing them from the deep. At 0433 hours, on board USS Delaware, sonar operator Chief Petty Officer Ramirez whispered into his mic, "We've got them. 2 targets, 1 nuclear, 1 diesel electric, both moving south-southwest, depth 400 feet. Rear Admiral Douglas Green, commander of the carrier group, was informed within seconds. His order was short and cold: initiate silent shadow. Keep them boxed in, while destroyers, USS Thomas Hudner and USS. The Sullivans shifted formation to screen the carrier. The Ford's combat air patrol launched into the pre-dawn sky. 2 FA-18 Super Hornets and an EA-18G Growler climbed above the Arctic mist, their sensors sweeping for periscope wakes or signal bursts. At 0445 hours, the P-8 Poseidon Viking 04 dropped a grid of sonobuoys, each one a floating ear in the water. Within minutes, the data returned: 2 submerged contacts maneuvering aggressively. The Kilo was rising. The Yasen was holding deep and slow, possibly preparing for a simulated torpedo run. In the Ford's Combat Information Center, green lines danced across the screen. Operators whispered. The air was electric. They all knew what this meant. Russia was testing NATO's northern shield, probing defenses that stretched from Iceland to Norway. At 4:52, the Kilo's periscope broke the surface, just for 3 seconds, long enough for a U.S. Navy MQ-9B Sea Guardian drone to capture a thermal image. The silhouette confirmed it: the B-806 Dimitrov, the same sub involved in multiple harassment operations in 2024. The Americans had proof. By 0503 hours, the tension hit its peak. Russian subs had maneuvered within 29 nautical miles of the U.S. carrier group, well inside strike range for Caliber or Zircon missiles. For 14 minutes, the Ford strike group was at DEFCON 3, naval readiness condition. The order to prepare anti-submarine weapons was given, though no one wanted to be the first to pull the trigger. Under the icy waves, the USS Delaware adjusted her course. She was now trailing the Yasen at less than a mile, knife fight distance for submariners. Sonar pings echoed softly. It was a game of nerves. One wrong move, and both sides could vanish beneath the Arctic in seconds. At 5:18, a coded message flashed through the fleet's secure comms network. Contact acquired. Operation Veil Protocol active. Moments later, the Americans made their move. 3 Mk-54 torpedoes were armed, not to fire, but to send a signal. Their activation frequency was deliberately broadcast across the tactical channel, a warning that the carrier group knew exactly where the Russians were. The ocean went silent. Inside the Yasen's control room, the Russian captain clenched his jaw. He'd been caught. His simulated ambush was over. The order came through encrypted line from Murmansk: abort and withdraw. At 0524 hours, both Russian subs began retreating north at depth 500 feet, maintaining radio silence. Above, the Ford's radar plotted their slow, quiet exit. For the US Navy, this was more than a victory. It was a message. The Arctic theater was no longer Russia's backyard. It was contested water, and America was watching. But the incident wasn't over, because 14 hours later, a Russian bomber group took off from Severomorsk, heading straight for the same region. What happened next would turn a silent standoff beneath the ice into a full-scale confrontation above it. At 20:09 hours, the US fighters made visual contact, 6 silver shapes gliding against the dusk, their propellers glowing red from the cold friction. The Russians were flying in a broad arrowhead pattern. Each Tu-95 carried what analysts feared most: Kh-101 long-range cruise missiles, each capable of striking NATO assets in Norway, the UK, or even the continental United States. The lead Super Hornets radar warning receiver chirped. The Russian MiG-31s had locked on. Captain Reaper Lawson, flight lead for the Black Lions, steadied his voice. Control, we are eyeball to eyeball with the bears. 2 foxhounds, high and wide. They're painting us but not firing. Standing by for rules of engagement. From the Ford, Admiral Green responded, maintain intercept posture. Weapons tight. They want us to blink first. We don't blink. For 12 tense minutes, the two sides shadowed each other over the Arctic sky. No missiles fired, no radios open, just silent defiance at 35,000 feet. Then, at 20:22 hours, things changed. One of the Tu-95s broke formation. Its bomb bay doors opened, a gesture every pilot in that sky recognized. The radar signature of a Kh-101 missile pod came alive. Within seconds, the US Growler activated full AN/ALQ 249 electronic countermeasures, flooding Russian radar with white noise. Captain Lawson's voice cut through comms. One bear is hot. Bomb bay open. Repeat. Bomb bay open. Admiral Green gave the order instantly. Engage and shadow. Lock targets. Do not fire unless they cross the red line. But the Russians weren't stopping. The Tu-95 rolled slightly, aligning its nose toward the carrier group. Sensors on board the E-2D Hawkeye showed a brief spike, the unmistakable code signature of a missile targeting system warming up. At 20:26 hours, the first missile was launched. The Kh-101 streaked into the Arctic night, vanishing below radar altitude. The Growler immediately jammed its guidance frequency, while the Ford's Aegis combat system activated defensive protocols. Within seconds, USS Thomas Hudner and USS The Sullivans launched SM-6 interceptors into the night. 2 bright arcs cut across the sky, and seconds later, an explosion illuminated the horizon. The missile was gone. That was the final warning the Americans needed. At 20:28 hours, the Super Hornets went weapons hot. 2 AIM-120D AMRAAM missiles roared toward the Tu-95 formation. The first struck near the right wing of the lead bear. Flames burst from its fuselage. The second detonated between the escorts, scattering the formation. The Russian MiG-31s dove instantly, flares streaking behind them. The Arctic sky was chaos. Radar locks, flares, sonic booms. Over encrypted comms, Admiral Green issued the new directive: engage defensive. Keep them out of strike range. No one gets close to this carrier. Within minutes, the remaining Tu-95s turned north, back toward Murmansk. But it wasn't over, because the Yasen-class submarine that had retreated earlier, Kazan, had resurfaced on sonar again. At 20:41 hours, sonar aboard USS Delaware picked up a new pattern: rapid ascent, then missile hatch activation. The Russians were preparing to launch P-800 Onyx anti-ship missiles. Before they could, the USS Delaware fired first. 2 Mk-48 Adi-cap torpedoes left the tubes at 55 knots, cutting through the dark like predators. The Jason-class tried to dive, deploying countermeasures, but it was too late. At 20:47 hours, seismic sensors across northern Norway recorded a deep underwater shockwave. The Russian sub was gone. Above the waves, the Ford's strike group maintained full alert for another 2 hours, scanning for secondary threats. None came. By 23:05 hours, the skies had gone quiet again. The intercept had ended. The Russian bombers retreated, their escorts vanishing beyond radar range. At 23:17 hours, Admiral Green addressed the crew. "Today, we stared down a coordinated strike, surface, air, and undersea. We held the line. That's what deterrence looks like." But while the American sailors cheered, in Moscow, the mood was very different. Satellite imagery later revealed massive redeployment activity at Severomorsk and Kaliningrad. Analysts believe Russia was testing NATO's northern perimeter, probing reaction time, electronic defense layers, and willpower. U.S. intelligence quietly labeled the incident the Norwegian Gambit. It wasn't a war, but it was dangerously close. Within 48 hours, NATO command in Brussels raised readiness for Arctic air patrols. B-52 Stratofortresses were moved to the UK. Norwegian F-35s began joint training with US F-15EXS over the Barents Sea. The message was unmistakable. If Moscow wanted to play at the edge of confrontation, the US and its allies were ready to finish the game. By the morning of April 20th, the Ford's strike group was ordered south towards safer waters. But deep in the Arctic, US satellites still tracked the silent shadows of Russian submarines, moving just beyond range, watching, waiting. The standoff had ended, for now, but one wrong signal, one misread radar echo, and the Arctic could ignite into the next flashpoint of global conflict. This was the Battle of the Norwegian Sea, a confrontation never officially recorded, yet whispered across naval briefings and Arctic bases. Because sometimes, deterrence isn't about who fires first, it's about who refuses to back down.